so we may have a fire drill.
Okay.
But maybe worth
See what happens.
noting. Yeah, just everything's okay right now.
Okay.
At least it's an interesting one.
Should I say something?
You can. No fear seems to be contained.
All right, we're ready?
Yep, whenever you are.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the fifth meeting of the World Radio Communication Conference Advisory Committee. Thanks for joining us, and special thanks to all the members of the informal working groups for all of your efforts. Pleased to report that we've already produced more than half of the proposals for the WRC-19 agenda, so that's great. We'll get a status report from each of the working groups and consider a few items this morning. I was just alerted, and I'm not joking, there was apparently a small fire in the parking garage this morning that they tell us is under control. But if you have to call back to the office and say, sorry, I had a fire drill, it may be a real fire drill, but we think everything's okay. Is that what we're hearing? Okay. These meetings always have a surprise. So we'll have a lot to cover today, but I want to start. Honored to be able to introduce our guest speaker. I don't have to tell all of you what a full agenda Chairman Pai has and what a busy schedule he has, whether it's promoting broadband deployment or accelerating the 5G rollout or simply promoting American economic interests and competitiveness around the world. So we're thrilled to have him here, and it's great to hear his remarks about how important your work is and how it fits into the busy agenda that he has developed for this agency. So please join me. Welcoming Chairman Ajit Pai.
Well, good morning. I'd like to welcome all of you to the FCC on a happy, fiery Monday morning, and extend a warm welcome to everyone who's on the Work Advisory Committee, the WAC, I guess as it's called. It's not the most pithy acronym, but it'll do for now. To the members new and old, we really thank you for your service, and in particular, thanks to Tom and to Chris for serving as our co-chairs of this important advisory committee. Hearing your views, your priorities, and your objectives ensures that the FCC represents a broad spectrum of views during the international negotiations and the domestic decision-making heading towards the WRC-19 conference, which actually isn't that far away. Speaking of which, we are now a year and a half away from the start of that conference in Sharm el-Sheikh. You've certainly been hard at work. As Tom pointed out, you've already produced over half of the proposals for the WRC-19 agenda, paving the way for successful U.S. leadership both regionally at CTEL and internationally at the ITU. Now, today's meeting includes three topics where separate views will be presented. And while we don't expect that it will be easy to reach consensus on some of these difficult items, I nonetheless would encourage you and challenge you to continue to look for common ground. And the reason isn't so much parochial as practical. We as a country stand a much better chance of success internationally when we present a clear, consistent, and united message abroad. And I've seen that in some of my conversations with my international counterparts thus far. Now, many of the early proposals have focused on maintaining the current radio regulations, but we're now tackling, of course, the more difficult technical and regulatory challenges that largely represent the complexity of what we've been considering domestically. For instance, there has never been a time when there was more interest in developing large NGSO constellations, and I know the informal working groups are now beginning the discussions on the appropriate regulatory framework to enable this new technology while protecting GSO satellites. On spectrum, I've been a strong advocate of our Spectrum Horizons proceeding, looking at bands above 95 gigahertz for innovative uses domestically. And today we have our first proposal for consideration looking at the 275 to 450 gigahertz range for fixed and mobile use. We're also considering the first proposal for enabling 5G in the 37 to 43.5 gigahertz range. And finally, as the issues and discussions get more complex, we depend on you, the members of the WAC, to provide us guidance and support. I'm confident that the views and recommendations provided by this committee will form the basis for U.S. proposals to the upcoming CTEL meeting in July. The FCC, for its part, is steadfast in our support of the consumer and industry needs that we represent, both domestically and internationally. And so we look forward to continuing to work with you, and we certainly appreciate the time, the resources, the toil, the sweat that you are devoting to this critical process. So thanks once again to the chairs for their indulgence. Thanks to the FCC staff who are working on these issues, and thanks to all of you for taking time once again away from your coffee and your computers to be with us this morning. Take care.
Thank you, Chairman Pai. And, as the chairman said, we're 18 months away, but we're getting to the more challenging part here from both a technical perspective and a regulatory perspective, and the several View A and View B proposals that we have on the agenda kind of reflect that. But obviously, we'd love to make the FCC's job easier by reaching more consensus views, so I certainly encourage that. We have 8 new proposals to consider at today's meeting, including contributions from NTIA and the RCS committee. If during the meeting when you have an opportunity to speak, if you'd like to, please make sure to identify yourself and who you represent. And also for the representatives of the individual working groups, when you're called upon, if you could just give your status report, pause for any questions or comments on the status report, and then take each agenda item one by one, and then we'll consider each of those individually before moving on to the next one. Chris, anything to add for opening remarks?
Michael's going to go through it in a minute, but I want to thank the staff and everyone here for going through the rechartering process. I know it's not easy to get all the sign-offs and emails in, and it's hard to go through it during the middle of the cycle, but we appreciate everyone's efforts, and especially the staff. I know they've been trying to make the process better and meet the legal requirements for the committee as well. So thanks.
Thanks, Chris. We will start by reviewing the agenda for today's meeting. That is document 49. Any questions or comments on the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. We'll move on to the minutes of the previous meeting. That's document 48, which you should have. Any comments on the minutes from the last meeting? All right, we will deem those approved. As Chris just said, if you're feeling a new spring in your step, it's because we have been rechartered. Thank you to the staff for all the work there. Michael Mullenix, who's our designated federal officer, is going to touch on some of the administrative aspects there. I should pause to join Chris in thanking Michael and the whole staff for really keeping us running here. They do an amazing amount of work to support the efforts of the advisory committee. So thank you, and Michael, I'll turn it over to you.
All right, thank you, Tom and Chris, and welcome back. On March 16th, the FCC sent out a public notice announcing the rechartering and solicitation of members to rejoin the World Radio Communication Advisory Committee. The FCC, unfortunately, in our first 2-year period, did not receive proposals for the full WRC-19 agenda. So we decided it would be in the best interest to recharter the WAC starting on April 6th for another 2-year term. And we already see, based on the proposals today, that that was a fruitful decision. We put out a request for membership, and we had a flurry of emails, as expected, to join the WAC. The status of the membership list is available for information in the front and also on our website. On that list, you'll see the members that have been approved already. Those that are still having an application pending are noted in italics. This is available on the FCC's website, and we plan on updating it weekly. If you have not received a response from us, please send me an email, and I'd be happy to get back to you. Due to the situation this morning where we don't have our full membership, I would say, based on the amount of interest and the level of membership that we had on the previous WAC, we invite any comments by those that have not been approved as members today as observations. We will include them in the summary record in the meeting minutes so that those aren't lost, and we offer another opportunity through the public notice process immediately following this meeting, where we put all the proposals adopted and approved by the WAC out for public comment for all companies and interested persons to provide their input on these proposals. Last but not least is the WRC Advisory Committee structure. It's largely unchanged, where all of the WRC agenda items are split up amongst 4 different informal working groups, or affectionately known as IWGs. The only change you'll see is the vice chairmanship of IWG3. It was previously Ms. Giselle Creaser. Given some employment changes, we would have had a chairman and a vice chairman from the same company. Ms. Creaser offered to step down, and Mr. Zach Rosenbaum has thankfully offered to step in and bring his NGSO knowledge to that committee. So that document is contained in WAC 003. It's the latest revision, and it's just for your noting. Thanks, Tom and Chris.
Okay, moving on. Yep. Ken.
This is Ken Kane with Dwayne Morris. I was asked to make a statement this morning. My application for membership on the WAC, representing the Aerospace and Flight Test Radio Coordinating Council, has been cleared. Subsequent to that application, applicants, I believe all of us, received an email asking if any of us was an officer or director of any other entity or had a client relationship with any other entity which might have an interest in issues dealt with by the WAC. The answer that I supplied was affirmative. I also represent an office in the Pentagon which is responsible for the natural resources required by the test ranges, land, sea, air, and spectrum. That material was supplied. The General Counsel's office has reviewed it, and as indicated, my application has been cleared. They also requested that I make a statement this morning regarding that additional representation, and I have just done it. If you have any questions, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you, Ken. That'll be noted in the record.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, okay. Thank you. I'd like to invite Amy Sanders to provide updates on the IRAC radio conference subcommittee process. Amy, it's all yours.
Thank you, Chris. You have before you WAC 050, which represents the draft executive branch proposals for WRC-19. We cover 6 agenda items, including 3 under agenda item 7, and we offered them for the consideration of the WAC and the IWGs. We understand that some of these have already been considered in the IWGs, but not all. Look forward to working with you on them. Thank you.
Thanks. Any comments? I will note that, as Amy said, some of these have been considered already, but others are being forwarded for consideration in the next cycle of IWGs. Moving on to agenda item 6. I'd like to invite, is Joe Kramer here? Yep, there he is. Oh yeah, right in the front row, sorry. Give us a report on IWG 1.
Well, thank you, Mr. Murphy. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Mike, and the FCC guys. Thank you for having us here today on this wonderful Monday morning. IWG-1 is responsible for maritime, aeronautical, and radar services. We like to call it MARS, but not to be confused with IWG-3, which does satellite stuff. IWG-1 met 2 times since the last WAC meeting, and we have 1 document to submit to the WAC for approval, and that is WAC document 51. It's an industry proposal on agenda item 1.10, which is to consider spectrum needs and regulatory provisions for the introduction and use of the Global Aeronautical Distress and Safety System, GADS. And it's in accordance with Resolution 426. The good news is it's a consensus document. In fact, it's exactly the same as the NTIA proposal. So I think it'll be a very short, quick discussion. And hopefully we can take that to Geneva, actually maybe for the 5B meeting, and work on the draft CPM text with this kind of consensus. So that's my hope, that we can all get together in the brief time we have. I will notice that there are some changes with the introduction text, but I think, of course, ours is better, so NTIA hopefully will go with that. Anyway, I hope that's it. That's our document.
Any comments? Okay, approved. Thanks.
Thank you.
We'll move to informal working group 2 and our chair, Jane Stankevich.
Thank you. And in our never-ending quest to make Joe look good, IWG 2 has met 4 times since the last WAC meeting, and we have 4 documents, 2 of which are non-consensus. So not quite the same 100% success rate that they have in IWG 1. Out of the, I'll go through the documents in a moment, but we are also working on 2 of the additional agenda items that are still assigned to us. We've completed proposals for everything else other than 114, and that document is under discussion. 113 additional bans. There are discussions ongoing on at least another set of bans already that we will continue, and 116. And of course, agenda item 10 is assigned to all the groups. But other than that, all of the proposals, all of the agenda items assigned to us have been concluded or presented to the WAC at this point. With that, I'll stop at the status report in case there's questions before I move on to the documents.
Any questions on Jane's report?
Okay, the first document is in WAC 52, and that represents a consensus view on amateur use in Region 1 in 50 to 54 megahertz.
Any comments?
Kilohertz. No, megahertz.
Any comments on 52? If not, that document is approved.
The next document is WAC 53, and this is on agenda item 113, addressing the 37 to 43.5 gigahertz frequency range.
Any comments? None? Then,
Just one comment.
yes, sir.
On the cover sheet, you'll see a list of View A and View B companies that have signed on to this proposal. Those were based on the previous WAC membership. Given that some of these members haven't been cleared, we'll editorially modify the views here and then the views contained for those company names. And that's the document that you'll see out on public notice. We offer any of these companies to provide further comments during the public notice process, and that would apply also to the 2 other View A, View B documents. Thanks.
Thanks for that clarification. With that, any comments? All right, that document is approved.
WAC document 54 addresses agenda item 115 on frequency ranges 275 to 450 gigahertz. And that is a consensus document.
Any comments? All right, document 54 is approved.
And the final document for consideration is WAC 55, and this addresses issue 9.1.1 on terrestrial and satellite components of the 2 gigahertz bands. And that is a View A, View B document.
Any comments?
Jeff Blum with Dish Network. I was appointed last week, which I'm very excited about. Dish would like to lend its support to the no change View A for this document, please.
All right, that will be noted. Thank you, Jeff. Any other comments? All right, that means document 55 is approved. Thank you, Jane.
Okay. IWG 3, at this time I'd like to invite Jack Wengernick, present his report.
Okay, so good morning, everyone. So IWG 3 has met 4 times since the last WAC. As you can see from the agenda, we don't have anything to present to you today, but by way of status, we are currently working on a draft proposal for agenda item 1.6, which is the non-GSO FSS and the QV 40-50 gigahertz bands. It's a fairly looks like it's going to be a fairly complicated proposal, which is part of the reason that you're not seeing it here today. It was felt that it could benefit from some further development of work at the upcoming Working Party 4A meeting in July. And then we had 2 additional proposals that we had received from the RCS on agenda item 1.3 and 1.7, and you see those in the document 54. I think it was, whatever, for the document from NTIA. We had observations and comments on both of those, so we're not in a position to, IWG3 is not in a position to lend its support to either of those two at this point, and we do expect to be offering some ideas for improvements at a future WAC meeting. So that's my report.
Okay, thank you, Jack. On to IWG3, Jennifer Manor. Or sorry, for regulatory issues, Jennifer Manor, sorry.
Confirm that we've made significant progress since our last WAC meeting. We've had several meetings, and we have 3 documents for consideration today. 2 are consensus, and 1 is not a consensus document. The first document, WAC 56, is a proposal with regard to Agenda Item 1.4, which is focused on reviewing and revising, if necessary, the limitations in Annex 7 to Appendix 3. We were able to reach consensus on this document, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any comments? Approved.
The second document is WAC 57, which is a draft proposal for consideration for the conference that addresses Agenda Item 7, Issue K. On this one document, we were also able to reach consensus.
Any comments? Approved.
Okay, thank you. And the third document is WAC 58, which is on Agenda Item 8 regarding the deletion of the United States from 2 footnotes, 5.295 and 5.297 of the radio regulations. We have a View A and a View B, and I do just want to correct on the document the name of, and I'll forward this to you, Michael, separately. The Fox should be listed as 21st Century Fox. So that's just editorial. And thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any comments? Approved.
I do want to note we reviewed the RCC inputs, and we are going to get back with some comments and observations, just like IWG3. We don't have those yet, but we will get them in shortly. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you. And that concludes all the reports from the informal working groups. Thank you for your work there. Moving forward, I would direct your attention to document 4, which is the upcoming ITUR meetings and the WRC-19 preparatory timetable, and you'll see on there that the next meeting of the advisory committee will be Monday, October 1st at 11 a.m. That concludes everything listed on the agenda other than other business, so I can open the floor now to anyone with questions or comments. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Charles Rush. At this point in time, a not-so-special government employee. And in that regard, I would just like to ask a question about how one in a position such as I have can have his name added to support of documents that have been, as appropriate, that have been considered today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I'll take that one. Thank you, Dr. Rush. Well, if you're not so special government employee, that would make you a government employee, and all government employees are special. So, unfortunately, until you've been cleared through our membership process, both with OGC and IB review, you cannot add your name to proposal. However, you can make any observations in this meeting on those proposals that are under consideration, and that will be added to the summary record. Or you can add any views you would like through the public notice process. We hope that public notice containing all the proposals that were agreed today will be out sometime this week and allow everyone in the general public approximately 2 weeks to provide further comment so that the FCC can come up with its final proposal to take to reconciliation with NTIA to develop the final U.S. position.
Thank you, Mr. Molinex. If I interpret your comments correctly, then I would like to make an observation that I would like to have my name somehow associated on the list with View A in the agenda, and IWRC 2's issue with regard to the agenda item was at 9.1, issue 9.1.1. And I would also like to have my name on the list wherever that list may be, supporting the View B that was discussed in by Ms. Manor in IWIG 4. Thank you.
Great. That will be noted in the summary record. Thank you. Yes, sir.
Don Jansky, Bar My Telecom. I am in the same boat as Charlie, and so I'd like to have my views supporting View A of 9.1.1. And I'd also like to ask the question as to when is this process going to be finished, one way or the other. That's a question.
Just one clarification, the process of membership?
Of membership, yes.
Well, we plan on leaving the membership open so that anyone can apply throughout the process. Based on the specific application, there's no set timeline, but we will continue to provide any answers to any questions you have, especially since I'm not a lawyer. With my friends up in OGC, we'll be happy to provide you any clarifications on any points that you raise and try to make it as expeditious of a process as possible.
That's clear as mud. Thank you.
We will note your comments in the summary record. Any other questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you all for joining. The meeting is adjourned.